Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Reverse Sweep Show. This is your host SS, and joining me as ever is my co-host AB, and we have got a special guest in the house today, Karthik, popularly known as CricketScarface on Instagram. Welcome to the show, Karthik, and we got to know what is the story behind the handle and how did you get into cricket content creation?
Hey guys, thank you for having me over. This is such a great honor, speaking with like-minded cricket fanatics and nerds. So the story of Cricket.Scarface is like all of us. I fell in love with the magic of this wonderful game with its amazing spells, its amazing innings, and its nuances. So I wanted to have a channel that talks and celebrates such moments, those magical moments that are, ingrained in our minds and which are like unforgettable. So cricket, that's the cricket aspect. And the Scarface is where two passions of my life, cricket and movies. And Scarface is my favorite movie. Tony Montana is my favorite character, and I was wanting to blend both of them. And that's essentially why it's cricket.scarface. But great speaking to you both. Looking forward to have a lovely conversation with you.
So, to all our listeners and viewers, you can expect Karthik, aka Tony Montana, gunning down with all his opinions today. It will be very fun to follow. And we are in the Asia Cup season, the biennial event that keeps giving, 17th edition, if I'm not wrong. And this time it's happening in the UAE in the T20 format because, yeah, we have a T20 World Cup coming in. There is a lot of angles around this, people anticipating a high voltage clash, which the format and the creators of the tournament have made sure it happens multiple number of times. We have got India Pakistan coming up. A lot of chatter about this on social media. We are both wearing the India jersey, the Dream 11 one, not the not the new one. We are covering all the stars over here as well. Three on my side, one on Karthik's side, and we are also missing Virat Kohli as well. Who can forget 183? That is something to always think about when you think about Asia Cup. But yeah, India Pakistan is one storyline that I am looking forward to in this Asia Cup. Karthik, what's something that you are looking forward to when you think about this edition?
Quick timeout. If you are loving this dive into cricket's wild twists and turns, hit that like button and subscribe to the Reverse Sweep Show.
And if you've got that one friend who can't stop talking about cricket, share this episode with them and bring them into the squad.
I feel this edition is going to be extremely interesting apart from the, expected clash between India and Pakistan. It's probably one of the most inclusive tournaments which we have seen in years, right? There are 8 teams competing just in the Asian bloc. So if at all associate nations want to make a splash, this is the biggest launching board, right? To stake their claim. And it's also a tournament which I feel which will usher the start of a new Asian superpower. Right? Like it's always traditionally been India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, but I feel this might be the crowning glory moment for even Afghanistan. Seeing the momentum they've had across the T20 World Cups and the ODI World Cup. Maybe this is the tournament where they come into the reckoning. Like we talk usually in cricket about just cricket being divided into the Fab Four these days. But
Yeah.
Afghanistan has the chance to actually prove everyone wrong and show that hey, there is a Fab Five and they are a strong contender.
Yeah. So AB, we did an episode back in season one about Afghanistan doing wonders, and I had a big hot take around it as well. But what is your story, AB, in this tournament? What are you looking forward to?
We know that Asia Cup is kind of like the precursor to the World Cup, and the T20 World Cup is deceptively close. I think it's the first quarter of the coming year, so sometime around February or March. And I think the team that is playing in this particular Asia Cup is by and large going to be the team that will feature in that World Cup. And the team management, the team leadership has made an interesting choice of having Shubman Gill in the side. And I'm really looking forward to the opening partnership between Gill and Abhishek Sharma, the old buddies from Punjab team. And it's a kind of combination of fire and ice when you look at both of them. So really excited to look at how these two perform. And we also know that with T20Is, you have got to win the power play to be able to win the match or the tournament. So really looking forward to that partnership and how that fares, because we saw what Sanju Samson and Abhishek Sharma did. Now with this new look opening partnership, really looking forward to that. And now with that, we are at our core a storytelling podcast, and Karthik, you as well come up with these amazing stories. And hence, when we thought of doing this episode with you, we thought that we should bring out these iconic stories from the history of Asia Cup, which started back in 1980s, and we have had multiple editions. As you mentioned, this is the 17th edition. So what we intend to do in this episode is we bring those 4 stories, 2 from Karthik and 1 each from me and SS. And with that, Karthik, I'll pass it on to you. Which is your first story that you want to talk about from the entire history of Asia Cup?
I need to remind all of us of a very underrated story in the Asia Cup, the one where Kedar Jadhav became Kedar Botham overnight and won us the final with a broken hamstring. So it had all the happenings of a Greek tragedy, right? You had Bangladesh's eventual heartbreak, our hero having a hamstring problem. And I vividly remember that game because I think Kedar Jadhav was retired hurt in the middle of that game. I believe this is the 2018
Yeah.
final.
Yeah.
And so he played parts both in batting and bowling, wherein I think Bangladesh got to a rollicking start. They were like 120 for no loss or something. And then Botham comes in and bowls those loopy off
Slingers.
swingers, which treads the line of impossible with the swing at the angle of where the ball was delivered, gets India back into the game, and he's again brought into the fore and comes to bat the 40th over to win India the game. What I vividly remember about the game was, I think when he got retired hurt in the bit, I think some of the commentators spoke to him live on the ground, and he was like, "I suspect I have a grade 2 hamstring," and to eventually come out
Come
and
into that.
score the winning runs of the last ball. So it's one of the most crazy finishes that hardly gets spoken about. So that was a crazy moment that I can't forget, and which we should celebrate more. So Lord Kedar Jadhav, we remember you.
Yeah, all the Kedar Jadhav fans in the chat and on Twitter should stand up and applaud. And those were the Kedar Jadhav years. He made a fantastic innings versus England as well.
Yeah.
Became our 6th bowler effectively going into the 19 World Cup. And those were the years. I think people used to make mockery of his bowling, but he was really effective. I think, AB, didn't we do a short reel around that scorecard of the final?
That was actually the very last reel that we put up, and I actually put SS on spot asking him to predict the entire playing 11, and SS Kedar Jadhav was the last player that you were able to guess.
That
That
says
is
a
how
lot.
underrated. That
Yeah.
is how underrated the match winning performance was, and this was the Asia
That's
Cup final.
exactly why I bought it up, because it had everything that you want from a blockbuster. You have a team running away with the game. Then there is a sudden collapse of unimaginable proportions. Then you have an unlikely hero stepping up with the ball. And then somebody has an injury, and then that somebody scores the winning run. So it was crazy. It was crazy.
It was also the time when India was also chopping and changing a lot
Yeah.
in their batting order. So Kohli was rested in that particular match or series, and we had Raidu batting at 3, Karthik at 4. So it was a very different looking Indian batting attack, and Kedar
And-
Jadhav, yeah.
And that was a time when we were experimenting with all finishers of every shape and size, right? Brief
Yeah.
period where it was Jadhav was the designated finisher. Then there was a time when Dinesh Karthik was the
There was also
finisher
Vijay Shankar coming in the picture as well.
Vijay Shankar.
with his 3D glasses.
Yeah, 3D glasses. MSK Prasad's famous comment around 3D skill set. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic story to build in, and that speaks volume of the player. And also the Asia Cup became a biennial event, and there are so many stories like this. I think one was brought from Karthik about Kedar. I think I will go next now, and the story I want to is go back to the year 2008, one of the most famous spells in ODI cricket, definitely the most famous in Asia Cup history. Ajanta Mendis, the M&M factor, remember that with him and Murli. He was already being called as the next Murli, and he was unleashed in that final of 2008. 6 for 13. India had a good start. Yeah, they were chasing some 270 odd. Sanat Jayasuriya made a century. Those are the days where Jayasuriya could still come and attack India in mid 125. India started brilliantly. Sehwag had found a way to always attack Vas, and he went 36 ball 60. India had a rollicking start, and then Mendis did not play against India in the previous games in the Asia Cup. So that was
Oh,
against the Asia Cup. Yeah, so it was a Super 4. There were only 6 teams. but we had a Super 4 event. He played against Pakistan, took a 4 for. He had debuted earlier in the year versus the West Indies and took a 3 for. And there was always a talk around that he's that point very accurate and he has got some variation. He came onto the back of coming with 9 matches and 63 wickets in the first class cricket as well. So there was a lot of hype, but he was kind of saved for the final. And after that start, he comes in, destroys the Indian batting lineup. 6 for 13, iconic spell. Yuvraj, Sehwag, everyone struggled against him. I think the tail had no idea, and India lost by 100 runs the final. And then India went on to play Sri Lanka in a test series that followed it. And he took what? At an average of 18, picked 26 wickets in 3 test matches. We always remember Sehwag's double century in Gal, one of the greatest test innings ever.
One of the greatest innings, yeah.
Yeah, he broke Alec Betzer's record, Ajanta Mendis, of maximum wickets in a certain test series, became the emerging ICC Player of the Year as well. All the accolades going for him. Then, of course, he was demystified. I remember a documentary that came on 10 Sports, the Indian broadcasting channel, where they interviewed with ex-cricketers and they said how to decipher the carom ball because that was the main thing. You flick it using your thumb and middle finger and it can deviate and has a dip. And that was the point where nobody could read him. It took certain number of years and certain number of injuries to Ajanta Mendis, but he was one of the first icons when it comes to mystery spin. He changed the rules of mystery spin. Ashwin came in, Narayan came in, had even better careers than Mendis, but he was the guy who kind of changed the spin itself because we had Murli and Vaughan and Kumble era. He was like an upgraded version of Kumble. That I am an off spinner who can be played like a medium pacer if you want me and if you have the balls to do that. But that final spell, it's etched in your memory because then coming the test series, it gave us so many scars. CricketScarface, it gave us so many scars. And yeah, I just wanted to mention about Mendis. He's almost like a forgotten man now.
Yeah, I mean, I actually remember watching those matches and felt so helpless. Like Indian batters had no clue where the ball was going. And that was the first time when at least I saw mystery spin at international stage, and that was amazing to watch. I think he had one of the brightest peaks in
Fastest
international
50
cricket
wickets.
as a
Fastest 50 wickets in 19 games.
And
also,
it's quite an achievement by itself that you're probably overachieved, or probably arguably one of the greatest spinners in the game, Muthaiya Muralidharan, and caused that sort of devastation. And I remember that a word as innocuous as carom instilled so much fear in all of us, right? The carom ball was something
weapon
we
of
never
mass
seen.
destruction.
Yeah, exactly. And he used it to great effect. It's a spell which is like a mixture of devastation, mystery, and magic. It's one of the greatest spells across tournament, not only in the Asia Cup.
Yeah, I was actually catching the highlights of it, and look at the dismissals. There is in every dismissal there is absolutely no chance. There is no luck involved. You have been beaten at all ends up. LBW, caught at the slip or bowled. LBW and bowled. He was like the Waqar Yunus of those days. I think he will just get you out just because of his sheer line and length and the mystery element.
Yeah.
And also, great what if probably if Mendis played 30 years back when cameras and videotapes weren't as common, figuring him out would have been so much more tougher. Probably would have gone on
This is what they did in that documentary, Decoding Mendis, in which they use ultra slow-mo to identify, because he did not have a traditional stock delivery. He did not rely on control and length and hanging it there all the time and just waiting for a mistake. He relied on that variation of caramel. Once that was deciphered, and it became much easier, and people started using, playing him like a medium pacer coming down the track. Raina and Dhoni absolutely dismantled him a year later on. But yeah, it was a star that shone so brightly and so quickly, it faded away. And you could never imagine after that performance that the next ODI World Cup, which happens in 2011, it was Muralidharan and Suraj Randeep playing the final and not Mendis. That's absolutely crazy to me.
Crazy.
So yeah, just wanted to build the Mendis story up. I thought that was very nice. Eddie, it's now your turn to pick your story from Asia Cup history.
Yeah, I talk about another team, which I like to think of them as the Forever Minnows, which is a bit sad to think about them as being the Forever Minnows. And I'm talking about Bangladesh. They've been playing international cricket since the 80s. It took them 80s, then all of 90s and 2000s to really make their mark in international cricket. They would play a match, maybe create an upset here and there. We remember what they did in the 2007 World Cup in West Indies, but they really found their footing in international cricket in 2010s, when they had players like Mushfiqur Rahim, Shakib Al Hasan, Tamim Iqbal, all these amazing players coming together. And that is where we see Bangladesh playing a lot better and competing against the big teams. And the story that I'm going to talk about is from 2012, the Asia Cup, which happened in Bangladesh. And they beat some of the favorites like India and Sri Lanka to make it to the finals against Pakistan. And the match came super close. They lost by 2 runs. It was a heartbreak in Bangladesh at the Dhaka Stadium, but also across the country. We saw players Mushfiqur Rahim crying literally on the ground. And that also goes on to show that Bangladesh had those slight flickers of hope every now and then. In fact, in Asia Cup, they made the finals of 2012. They made it to the finals in 2016, even in 2018. So those flickers of hope were there, but then as a team, they could never cross that line. And they came so close in that 2012 match. To talk a bit more about that 2012 match, it was the same old slow pitch in Mirpur, and Pakistan batted first on the back of some good innings, some impactful innings from Shahid Afridi and I think Sarfaraz. They were able to get to a score of 236. Bangladesh had a good start, but a very slow start. They had good performances from Tamim Iqbal, who scored a 15 every match. They had a very good 60 odd from Shakib Al Hasan. Towards the end, they needed 9 runs in the final over, but Pakistan were able to hold on to their nerves and win the match. And that was a heartbreak moment for Bangladesh. And then we have seen that they have not been able to get to that level consistently and win those big tournaments. And that for me is a big story, because Bangladesh could have been the 4th big team in Asia and could have competed, like as you were talking about, Karthik, the Fab 4, Fab 5. Bangladesh could have been in that league, given the sheer amount of cricketing talent and passion that they have had. But it's these moments where they miss out on, and we've seen that time and again in Asia Cup. So that's a story which I feel is something which needed to be spoken about.
They have, as you said, enough backing from their crowd and fervent support. I mean, the board can also do, because it's a big catchment area, and they needed that. They also played the Nidahas final as well. So there were areas where getting to the final and not crossing the line. And now it seems that what Karthik alluded early on, they have been kind of being trumped by Afghanistan from that front, despite all the systemic problems that exist in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, the forever minnows tag fits perfectly here as well, because just in this specific call, we have 3 instances where they have reached the final and got trumped. Who can forget the legendary Dhoni run out final? That's also an insane match where we trumped over them at the very last moment. So it's seizing of these big moments that elevate yourself into a superpower, which Sri Lanka did to great effect. They eventually, after the '96 World Cup, became the ultimate force there was. So so that's why I come back to my initial discussion around this Asia Cup also being important to stake their claim into the big league now. Not these flashes in the pan, but to vehemently and confidently make that leap.
I think Bangladesh had really good players in 2010s as well, by the way.
Definitely. Like Karthik, I also love the point that you make of Sri Lanka winning the '96 World Cup. Also, we saw the kind of fillip that their entire cricketing infrastructure got after that win. We saw what happened with the Indian cricket team after the '83 World Cup win. And Bangladesh somehow hasn't had that moment of glory at the big stage yet.
Correct.
And in fact, that also reminds me, the 2012 Asia Cup also had 2 very impactful performances of note. And we just have to speak about it, right? One was the Kohli 183, like you guys were also talking about it. The other was also Sachin's 100th 100.
Came versus Bangladesh and we lost the game.
We lost the game.
And that is the
game. It has so many bittersweet memories. The general, there's this Mandela effect stating that, hey, it's an iconic feat. Yeah, definitely 100 hundreds, but it has a very bittersweet ending, right? We eventually lost that match. So yeah, it was an iconic Asia Cup of that sorts. Yeah.
And it gave like and it gave like a forever fillip to all the trollers out there on Twitter who continue to say that when Sachin makes 100, India loses. Which is like the last time he made it.
Also, a very interesting point, the format of the tournament was such that, so basically India and Bangladesh had the same number of points after the group stages. And the format was that the team who won the head-to-head encounter would go on to the finals. So India actually had a better net run rate, but Bangladesh qualified for the finals because India had lost against Bangladesh.
Oh,
So
wow.
a very
Yeah.
interesting point there.
That's even worse
But I
than
think
maximum number of boundaries. Ooh.
Nothing can
absolutely.
beat that.
Nothing can beat that. Nothing comes close. I think so.
Yeah,
We have all
but
given one stories each, right, AB? With your
now
story, I think
it's
Karthik son.
Karthik, over to you for the final story from your side.
Yeah. Talking about underrated stories, under the radar story that we often overlook is the brain fade movement which Afghanistan faced in the 23 Asia Cup, wherein they had to score some 290 runs or something in 37 overs, and they had the same movement which South Africa faced in the 2003 World Cup, where they didn't know exactly what score needed to be chased down, and it actually came down to them probably just scoring 1 or 2 runs of 3 balls, but they had lost 9 wickets. And eventually it came down to the fact that Faruqi defends the 2 balls, and on the very last ball gets LBW, leaving in form Rashid Khan stranded on tracks. And they failed to qualify in the Super Force that year.
Ouch. Yeah.
So it brought back memories of the famous 2003 brain fade movement, right? The Boucher versus
Yeah.
Muralidharan movement. That such small margins and the entire fate of your team changes in one delivery of that sorts. So
Yeah.
it's had it all actually. Many people assume that hey, a smaller tournament like an Asia Cup would not have such movements, but it has had it all. You've had these heartbreaks, these brain fade movements, these iconic centuries. So 2023 was such a moment which was, very, very pivotal in the way Afghanistan moved ahead, and they eventually got knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's such a good story. And if I generally like to look at how the teams have evolved. Afghanistan has started competing at the world stage, but then it's again these critical moments for them where they have
Yeah.
to cross that line. And we see that experience factor coming in. Even I remember the 23 World Cup eventually, Maxwell
Yeah.
literally batting on one leg, and Afghanistan didn't know what to do. They just kept bowling in his arc. So they didn't have a tactic against that. And then eventually the 24 World Cup, I think it was where Afghanistan was again playing against Australia, and Gulpati Nair pulled out that amazing hamstring pull act.
Yeah.
So it's always
They reached the
these
semi-finals
critical
of
moments.
2024. Yeah, and they lost out to South
No,
Africa
but
there. But
the good thing about Afghanistan here is, so these are not, so that's why I reiterate to the statement that I feel they've had this upward momentum,
yeah,
and across tournaments. So though this is this incident is a loss that happened and they failed to qualify, but they've given them that extra impetus and focus and energy to seize the big moments, and we've seen it, right?
Yeah,
Maxwell's inning arguably is one of the greatest innings to have ever played across
across. Yeah,
formats and across leagues or whatever. But to have the mental muscle to use that loss as a weapon to surge forward and come so prolifically ahead in tournaments is a testament to their resolve.
absolutely. I mean, that's a great story, and again, one of the stories that we can see in your picks. You have picked under the radar, forgotten a bit, but that's what we wanted to do with this episode. Go back into the annals of history of Asia Cup and pick these stories for our listeners and viewers. So, guys, those were our stories that we picked out looking back. But there's so much more to Asia Cup. And is there anything, AB and Karthik, possibly Karthik, I'll pass it to you first to say anything else that stood out looking back and thinking about Asia Cup?
I think one of the most underrated stories that we don't talk much about is how the Asia Cup has actually been very instrumental in Virat Kohli's career. And I'm just not talking about the 3. But if you see, as his cricket trajectory has been, it is his 183 that has propelled him into superstardom, into the
Yeah.
world's reckoning, that brought him to that big stage. And it's also the 122 against Afghanistan when he had that lull and
Yeah.
he scores that iconic 122. And you feel that the earth has been healed and cricket is beautiful again. Those are such iconic moments. And he's also in the top 5 scorers in the Asia Cup. If I'm not wrong, he's definitely right up there. Time and again, the Asia Cup has been that, lighthouse in the end of a hazy sea which has brought or anchored Kohli back into the limelight. So it is something that we don't talk much about because Asia Cup is probably not given that much of an importance, but
Yeah.
we need to talk about how important it has been for Virat Kohli.
That's a great call. I think when we think about Kohli's career, we think about all the success he has had in World Cups, down under, in Test match cricket, and how he has been a chase master. But looking back at his Asia Cup history, that's a testament. And that's a great point, Karthik. Yeah, that's an amazing point, actually.
Yeah, and completely agree. Like Kohli was struggling so much in 22, and this was the kind of turning point which gave him that momentum, which also led him to being the highest run scorer in 23 World Cup, and was such an anchor for Team India's performance. And I think this was one place where it all started from. So Asia Cup definitely giving him that fillip.
And also one
Another thing,
interesting stat is we all talk about the 183 of Kohli against Pakistan. It is incidentally the last ODI match that Tendulkar ever played. So if you look at it from a psychological point of view, maybe that 183 gave him the confidence that, hey, this is the time where I successfully pass on the baton to we have found our number 3.
Yeah, I think that's also a great thing. I mean, we saw Kohli lifting up Sachin on his shoulders, carrying him around Wankhede in 11 final, but Sachin stayed long just to make sure for his love of Indian cricket, this guy is going to, take over the mantle in the best possible way, and that 183 possibly gave him that. That's a great call as well. But that wraps up this segment. We want to segue into the hot takes one. I'm going to pass it to you, Karthik. I know probably where you're going with Afghanistan angle, but maybe you have a surprise for us. What's your hot take from this Asia Cup that we are having?
The hot take I have is Afghanistan is the dark horse. It's a bigger final contender than Pakistan and Bangladesh for sure, is what I feel. And maybe this is their stepping stone moment wherein they stake their claim into the big table.
Yeah, it's
And another hot take which I have is, the narrative is being skewed around the fact that, hey, it's the batting that of, XYZ teams that will win you the cup. But I feel it's going to be a battle of Noor Ahmed versus Kuldeep Yadav. The one who trumps the other teams and, spins a better web is going to win the tournament, is what I feel. And with the dusty, slow pitches in Dubai, I strongly feel it's the spinners who's going to win the tournament for whatever team that wins it, and not the batsman.
I think that's a prudent pick, actually. I would say that's a warm take, not a hot take. I think Afghanistan can do really good. But interesting that you mentioned about the bowling aspect. That will be something for us to follow. AB, what's your hot take?
Yeah, my hot take again, something that I've been looking forward to seeing in this Asia Cup is the opening partnership. And I don't know if you guys followed it or not. Yesterday, England scored a 300 in a 20I, the first time that happened. So where I'm going to is that we see the international T20s changing even more, getting even more quicker and faster. And with that, the opening combination of Abhishek Sharma and Shubman Gill, I'm starting to question whether Shubman Gill actually fits in there. Do we need someone who is a bit more explosive there? So my hot take is that by the time the T20 World Cup comes up, Shubman Gill will find a way out of the team, and we probably have either Sanju Samson or Yashasvi Jaiswal in that spot.
We always thought SRH is going to be the first team in the world to make 300 in a proper game of 20 cricket, but England trumped them last evening. But again, I think there was a lot of questions with the selection of Gill. But yeah, I think there we have it. I think he has all the games to prove otherwise this Asia Cup, considering the opposition. If he does really well, it will be very difficult. But you don't know. Things can happen. And Jaiswal has got a better T20 record if I look at statistics, at least better strike rate, and has got more explosion. But then you have the Jay and Viru partnership at the top with Gill and Sharma. So yeah, it's a hot take, maybe for now at least. On my side,
what is your hot take, sir?
Yeah. On my side, I was also wondering which one I should pick. I think I will also go with a player-centric story and something that was again linked to the opening slot of Indian cricket team. Sanju Samson batting at number 5. Gautam Gambhir said that even if he made 30 ducks, he will continue to be backed. But I feel with the wicket-keeping aspect, we can cover through other mediums and players can fit in the middle order, whether it's a Pant who eventually comes in or like a Jitesh. I actually feel Sanju Samson will not be part of the World Championship that's going to happen in 6 months of time. I fear for him.
Because I actually did a reel on Sanju Samson long time ago, and I I made an analogy that he's like the Schrodinger cat experiment, because every innings he plays, you don't know which Sanju Samson turns up, right? You like
Yeah.
whether it's going to be a
It's a 0 or a
innings of
100.
such
I think in the England series,
yeah,
that's what was happening.
yeah. It's either a breathtaking Renaissance painting or
Yeah.
the painting in the Welcome movie of the donkey sitting on a horse. So it's you never know which Sanju will turn up. Like you said, and I totally agree with your point, because if we are truly looking towards the new generation of players, I think he is on his last leg, and this might be his only chance.
Yeah, and I also feel Sanju Samson at 5 is quite underutilized, right? You want a
Yeah,
finisher at that role. You don't want someone who plays the way Sanju Samson does, which is more binary, as you said, Karthik. So a
correct.
definite hot take at that is. Now with that, I think let's move on to the next section. A quick series prediction, a quick Asia Cup prediction. So who are the finalists, the winner, and also the player of the tournament? Karthik, I'll pass it on to you first. I know you predicted that, your hot take was Afghanistan winning, but from a more rational perspective, do you still feel that Afghanistan will win the tournament?
I still will say that India is going to win it. The hot take was that Afghanistan wins it, and I envision India and Afghanistan to be in the final.
Mhm.
But I think the player of the tournament, considering the nature of the wickets, is probably going to be somebody who does the old school sort of batting. The someone who's playing that sheet anchor role to great effect because of the nature of the wickets, the slowness, and not those insane 250, 270 scores or 200 plus scores. Because as the big games approach, the wickets are going to get slower and slower, and it's the ones who play that sheet anchor with great effect that will trump. So I feel it's somebody who plays the critical mass in whatever teams wins the cup, who will be the player of the tournament.
Interesting. So
And
basically,
so the other hot take is a counterpart on what you feel, and I feel in that mold, in the current Indian lineup, it's actually Shubman Gill who is the
No.
closest who will play that sheet anchor role, because the other ones are completely hey bang bang, right? So
true.
maybe
So
And
AB's hot
maybe
take is
Pakistan.
AB's hot take is Karthik's rational take.
And maybe Pakistan misses their ex-captain, Babar Azam, and maybe Mohammad Rizwan. But yeah, SS, over to you. What's your series prediction?
I will go very conservative with my series predictions. I think India and Pakistan play the final. I think Pakistan is just seeing a little momentum under Hassan, and I think they've got good spin bowling options that they have. And I think they will squeeze past. I think third team is Afghanistan, to be honest. Sri Lanka, I have not seen much. I think last year they were picking up. It will be very interesting to follow their games and see how they go. But if I have to pick right now, the finalists, it will be India and Pakistan, with India winning the tournament. And my pick for the player of the series is going to be Kuldeep Yadav. I think he is the number one for me, the spinner. I know
yeah.
Keshav Maharaj has been doing brilliantly for South Africa and everything, but I think when it comes to 4 overs and you're trying to score against him on pitches that are not conducive for the batters to hit through, especially with boundaries big on one side, I think Kuldeep will do very well. That's my predictions.
Yeah, amazing. I think teams will live and die by spin. Like whichever team has better spinners, they will see a very strong foothold in the matches in UAE. So Kuldeep Yadav definitely is a big match winner for India. We have seen that time and again, and will again be very, very crucial in this particular series.
Already has picked
And
4 wickets, so that's why I wanted to pick him as the man of the series. He already has.
yeah, of course. In my case, I also agree that it would be an India versus Pakistan final. Although it's a very new looking Pakistan team, but I think they
Yeah.
have the right tools. I've looked at their spinners. I think they have some real potential. I think it will come down to their batting, whether they are able to pull through. But I think when we have the Super Fours, they will be able to perform in more matches than not. So I think it will be India versus Pakistan. Regarding my player of the tournament prediction, I feel this is to not agree with you. I mean, just to go in a different direction, I think it will be Hardik Pandya. But given how like
Hmm.
batters
Will he
might
bowl
struggle to
enough?
score, Hardik he's the second pacer. He's the opening bowler
Yeah,
for
and
India
he bowls
along with
1 over, 2 overs
along with.
probably. Yeah, could be. You're
Yeah, and
right.
then he also gets to bat a lot more, is what I feel. Specifically, if
Hmm.
the wickets are a bit tough, I think he also has a role to play in finishing matches for India, batting at number 5. So or rather number 6. So
Yeah,
that's
Sanju
that's
Samson.
my prediction.
Six, actually.
That's actually a possibility that Samson goes down to 6.
Okay, so there you have it, guys. Those were the series predictions, which are preceded by our hot picks. And that's kind of a wrap of our episode. We did some storylines looking back nostalgically at the Asia Cup editions. We had under the radar ones from Cricket Scarface. That's what we have come to expect from Karthik with his storytelling on Instagram as well. That he brings such amazing stories in such a brilliant light. And I think me and AB were trying to play catch up over there with our stories, but I think we did justice with the storyline content of this episode. So there you have it, guys. We will link Cricket Scarface handle in our show notes as well. We will be publishing this over the weekend as we enjoy the Asia Cup action, and we'll be back with some short form content and long form content in the weeks forward. So thank you for tuning in. Please giving us your feedback. Do like, share, and subscribe on YouTube if you follow us there. Listen to us on Spotify or on any other podcasting network, and do give us a follow on Instagram. Thank you all, and see you next week.